Good evening from St. John in the Wilderness Church. Thanks for joining us this evening. Tonight is a really special occasion because we have with us our new bishop, Bishop Craig Loya. And Bishop Loya, we are so pleased and honored that you've come here to White Bear Lake. And we this whole thing is new for us, Between the Trees, and it's an opportunity for our parishioners to just get to know each other and to get to know some special guests. So we really appreciate. We wanted you, actually, to be honest with you, you were like our first choice.
That's super kind.
So I just wanted to let you know.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm thrilled to be here. It's great to meet you in person, and I've heard so many great things about St. John's Church. It's such a wonderful, vibrant faith community, and so what a gift to be able to spend a little bit of time with all of you this evening.
How was the drive up?
It was easy. I mean,
Really?
they keep telling me that the Twin Cities has traffic. But since my whole experience of living in the Twin Cities has been during COVID, it's easy to jump from one part of the metro. I live in the Southwest metro area.
Okay.
So it was about 45 minutes over here, but it was the easiest 45-minute drive you'll ever find.
Wow,
No
that's
slowdown or
amazing.
anything.
So you went straight through what should be really terrible. But
It was not. I didn't slow down once.
one
so
of
it
the
was-
blessings of COVID.
It was really easy. The one thing I will say about the drive over here is that my only regret is that it was dark, so I couldn't really see anything on the way over here. But I can tell just from driving in, the lake and the community are just beautiful. So I really look forward to a time when I can see this in the daylight too.
Yeah, it is. White Bear Lake is a beautiful place.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm like the luckiest guy to be able to be the priest here at St. John's.
Yeah.
It's just a super, super good place. I've got to say tonight, though, Bishop Loya, I'm a little nervous.
Okay.
More than I would be normally because, well, you're my bishop. And I don't really know you because you're new, and I'm kind of new to the diocese, actually. So, so good.
Well, no need to. I'm also nervous because I'm talking to you who I barely know, and I'm talking to a camera, and there's a bunch of people on the other side of that camera who I've never met before.
Yeah,
So
right.
I'm a little nervous as well.
So you have been a bishop now for how long?
For 5 months, just over 5 months. I became the Bishop of Minnesota on June 6th of this year.
Okay. Yeah, what a great, you weren't there when we elected you, but it was awesome. I mean you should have been there. Well, you kind of were there.
Yeah,
You were there by video.
Yeah, and it was really, so for those of you who saw that, it was a little unnerving because I could not hear anything that was happening in the cathedral. And so I was just live on screen, and I couldn't hear when it was time for me to talk. And and I was literally sitting at my kitchen table in Omaha. You all were in the cathedral. So it was a wonderful moment, but a really strange experience.
Had you had your breakfast already or not?
Yeah, we had, right. Yeah.
Okay, and my hunch is that being a bishop is very different than being a priest.
It is, and of course I'm brand new to this, so I'm still learning what all is different. One bishop said to me, I'll have to find out in the coming years whether this is true. One bishop said to me, who's been a bishop a long time, that as a bishop you use about 20% of the skill set that you used as a parish priest.
Oh, really?
It's yet to be determined whether that's true or not for me, but that's someone who's been doing this a long time and is really good at it. So I'll have to trust that they know what they're talking about.
Good luck with that.
Yeah. So it is in many ways, in some ways it is like learning a whole new vocation. In other ways, the gospel is the gospel.
Yeah.
And what I learned as a parish priest, which I'm sure you know, Art, is that effective leadership can only emerge out of faithful pastoral care.
Yeah.
So even though there's a lot that's really different about being a bishop in terms of what my days look like and the kinds of challenges and those sorts of things, the thing that is 100% the same is that the most important work we do is to show with our whole being the love of Christ to the people that we live and worship and work with.
I have really appreciated that about all your correspondence and not just your correspondence. When you're talking to us in meetings, you're always bringing us back to the person of Jesus.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Really, I mean, I just so appreciate that. So when you walk around in your purple shirt, do children think you're just like a fun priest? Or do they know that you're a bishop?
Yeah, I don't think, Episcopalians know that a purple shirt means you're a bishop, but I don't think anyone outside of the Episcopal Church knows that that's what that means. So I think people think I just have an odd choice in fashion and wear a shirt that a color that lots of other people don't wear.
Oh, so. Most of us choose black.
Right. Yeah.
And you grew up in Nebraska.
I did. So I was born and raised in what we called West Central Nebraska. So it was the very western edge of what is considered central Nebraska, in a town called North Platte, which is a town of about 24,000 people.
Oh, that's about as big as White Bear.
Okay, and the main industry there is it has the largest railroad switchyard on the planet. It's a hub for the Union Pacific Railroad. And so almost everyone in town has some connection to the railroad. My father was an engineer for the Union Pacific for 35 years before he retired. So that's where I grew up.
Did you ever ride the rails?
No, other than they used to do a thing that I'm not sure they do anymore called UP, Union Pacific Days, and so they would have one little stretch of track that you'd get to ride on for like 5 seconds, and that was about it. So that's really the only time I've been able to be on a train, because they don't let civilians onto a working train.
Yeah, you didn't even sneak onto one?
Never snuck on one, no.
Really?
No, I guess they had better security than that. So.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. See, in college I remember sneaking onto a train, but I'm much older than you, and so back then I guess they didn't have as tight security.
Yeah, I've never been on a working train before.
So North Platte, Nebraska. Now, I've got to say I've driven through Nebraska on the way to other places.
Yep, that's you are part of a very large club. if that's your experience of Nebraska.
Yeah. So when you would go on vacations as a kid, would you go somewhere in Nebraska? Where would you guys go?
No, so western Nebraska, where I grew up, we were closer to Denver than we were to Omaha on the other side of the state. So Denver was really our playground. Denver and the Rocky Mountains were sort of our playground when I was a kid. So most of our vacation time as a family, we had relatives, we had friends that lived in Denver and in the mountainous part of Colorado. So really growing up, our playground was Denver and the Rocky Mountains. So we spent a lot of time skiing and hiking and doing all of the Colorado things.
Do you still do that with your?
I've not skied since I was probably 16 years old. so I don't. If I tried it tomorrow, I don't like my chances.
When our senior high youth group goes skiing, we'll invite.
I'm happy to go with them, but it's probably not going to be pretty after all of these years. Yeah.
There might be a bundle of purple going down.
Exactly.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So you vacationed in Denver, and your wife is from Nebraska. But you didn't meet her there.
That's correct. So my wife, Melissa, is from Lincoln, Nebraska, the state capital on the eastern side of the state. But we met in seminary in New Haven, Connecticut.
Okay.
We were both in seminary. She was a year ahead of me. And my first semester in seminary, we had a class together. And she overheard me talking to somebody else in the class and mentioning that I'm from Nebraska. And she reached across the table and she said, "Oh, you're the other person in the parking lot that has Nebraska license plates on your car." Minnesota's a bigger place and there's a lot more people in Minnesota than Nebraska. So I don't know if Minnesotans are this way. But Nebraskans, if there are two Nebraskans outside of Nebraska, they will always find each other. So we're always on the lookout for each other. So that was the first thing that she said to me is, "Oh, you're the other person in the parking lot that has Nebraska license plates."
We have a former senior warden who is from Nebraska. Her whole family is from Nebraska. She's a Cornhusker fan.
Yeah.
And so I'm sure she's watching tonight saying,
"Hello and go Big Red."
How's Big Red doing?
That's been ugly the last 20 years.
Yes. I remember in the day, they knew what a football was.
They did, and it was, but the thing about Nebraska football, I don't know what the Minnesota equivalent is. I haven't discovered what the Minnesota equivalent is yet. But for Nebraska football, I didn't go to the University of Nebraska. I don't have any connection to the University of Nebraska, but it's existential for people that live in Nebraska. Husker football it's not a choice. So even if I didn't want to be a Husker fan, it's like in the DNA. I have no choice about it. And I don't know if there's an equivalent in Minnesota. But I will say, one of the many things I'm looking forward to about living in Minnesota is that I can be a Vikings fan, I can be a Twins fan, I can root for all of the local teams, but it's not painful in the way that even when they lose, it's not painful in the way that being a Nebraska fan is.
Oh, yes. But maybe Nebraska will start doing better.
We're always hopeful. We're always hopeful.
2021 is another year.
We always feel like we're just this close to turning a corner again. So
We'll see. Now you guys have a couple children, right?
We do. So my wife Melissa and I. My wife is a Hebrew Bible scholar, so she's an Old Testament scholar. She teaches at a United Methodist seminary that is based in Kansas City, Missouri. They have a hybrid model of learning, so she does mostly online and then a couple of residencies in Kansas City a year. We have 2 children. We have Mari, who is our 10-year-old daughter, and we have Asa, who is our son, who just turned 5 on Monday this week.
Those are fun ages.
Life is very full,
yes.
But we feel like this is such a great moment because there's something about those years between like 5 and 11 that are kind of the sweet spot in terms of children's ages, because they're just wonderful. You can see their personalities emerging.
Right.
They still want to be around us. They still like us.
Right.
So it really does feel like a perfect time with the kids.
I have 6 children, and let me tell you, it gets ugly. It's like Nebraska football. So just warning you.
Yeah, I know. So we're holding on to every day.
Enjoy that sweet spot.
Yeah.
It's really good. And how are they? I mean, it's such a hard time to move here.
Yeah, they're doing great. That probably has been the most challenging part of relocating, because under normal circumstances, they'd be in school on campus every day, and it would have taken them a week to have a gaggle of friends and all of that. So that's been a little more challenging about the transition. Although I will say we're really fortunate. We didn't know this when we moved into our house, but we live in a neighborhood that has a lot of other kids that are the same age as our kids. So they have been able to connect with the neighborhood kids, and at least in the warmer months, run around and ride bikes and do all the stuff with the neighbor kids.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
Does it feel like the old days riding around, or are neighborhoods different now with little kids?
It's not quite like the old days, like when I was a kid, my parents would like push me out the front door and I'd come back at dinner time.
I guess
those days are long gone, I will say that. But we do have a quiet little neighborhood with almost no traffic around other than just the local traffic. So the kids, at least within the neighborhood, the kids have a lot of freedom to kind of run around, which is fun.
Great.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I've really appreciated, Bishop Loya, with you coming here, is you hit the ground running. And you've established a set of priorities for ECMN as we move forward. And I'm wondering if you can talk a little bit about those priorities.
Yeah, so some of you will remember that in the time before the bishop election, there was a search committee that your deacon, Margaret Thor, was a member of. And the bishop search committee really went around the whole diocese and did lots of deep listening to what are our challenges as Minnesota Episcopalians? What are the unique gifts that we have? What are our hopes for the future? And so that really resulted in what I would call like the recruiting brochure for candidates for the bishop position.
Right.
And so there was a really clear aspirational vision that was articulated in that profile. So one of the things that after I was elected in January, I knew that I wanted to do is to take that aspirational vision and start to turn that into some kind of a strategic plan that would give us some clear priorities and a clear sense of where together as a diocese that we're going. So those four priorities that are rooted in that deep listening process, I articulated at our diocesan convention. Really, it's the main thing is returning to the basic practices of discipleship, what it means to follow the way of Jesus as a whole way of life. Mm-hmm. That's our core business as the church. And everything else we do flows from whether we're being faithful to practicing the way of Jesus in our lives. So that's the first priority, is discipleship.
Right.
What I've learned in other places is that well-practiced disciples bear fruit in at least 3 ways. So our other 3 priorities are faithful innovation, which is finding new ways to connect the gospel with our neighbors, new ways of organizing as a church, new ways of gathering, new ways of forming partnerships between congregations and starting new congregations. I'm interested to get to know the congregation here at St. John's a little better, but I'm sure that all of you know we're in the midst of this massive sea change in the church.
It was happening even before COVID.
Yeah, and what COVID has done is it's turned up the temperature on the transformation that was already happening.
Right.
So part of what we're all going to have to learn how to do in the years to come is find new ways that we gather, new ways of connecting with our neighbors, all of that. So the first way that well-practiced disciples bear fruit is in faithful innovation. The second way that well-practiced disciples bear fruit is in joining the Spirit's work of bringing about justice and building beloved community in the world. One of the things that we have learned from 2020 is the depth to which racism still operates in our culture, and the call that we have from the Holy Spirit to engage in working to dismantle that racism in the world. And I really believe that work in the world is of the Holy Spirit, and it's our call as disciples of Jesus to join that Spirit's work in the world. So it has to do with that work. It has to do with one of the things that I love about Minnesota is that we have an extraordinary amount of diversity. And that diversity is in every imaginable way. So part of the Spirit's work of justice in the world is really embracing the differences that we have as Minnesota Episcopalians as part of our giftedness. That's part of our gift, is that we have all of this incredible racial, cultural, ethnic, linguistic, political, geographic diversity. And all of it is a gift for us to embrace together. So the fourth priority, the third way that well-practiced disciples bear fruit in the world, is in vital congregations of every size, shape, ministry model, location, persuasion. We often in the church have tended to measure vitality as a function of numbers. How many people do you have attend a church service on a Sunday? Well, I'm sure this has been true in your ministry, Art, and probably a lot of you who are watching have found this to be true too. I have known congregations that have 5 or 6 people attending church on a Sunday morning to be incredibly vital. And I've known churches that have hundreds of people on a Sunday morning to be vital, and the opposite in both cases. Vitality is really a function of the extent to which we are singularly focused in our churches on inviting people into a transformative encounter with the person of Jesus. That's what we're about. And so what I really dream about is a diocese where all of our churches have that as an almost singular focus, and that's how we are measuring vitality, and that's the aspiration that we're striving for.
I am in.
No, that's great, because we need everybody. We'll do a COVID high five.
COVID high five, you got me.
Yeah.
I love the term well-practiced disciples. These discipleship is about action. It's about expressing the love of God in the world. And I so appreciate that term, well-practiced disciples.
And it is. I mean, it is, in my experience, the Christian faith is not something that you either have or you don't have. Right? It's not like you simply arrive at a point where now I'm a Christian and that's that, right? It is like learning to play a musical instrument, or learning a sport, or developing physical fitness. It requires practice and repetition. So it requires daily practices of prayer, finding some way every day to ground ourselves in the presence and love of God. It involves gathering in whatever way we're able to with our Christian community and sharing our lives with one another. It involves reaching out with the love of Jesus to our communities. Those are things that we practice at, and the more we practice at them, the more our lives render a sense of God's love, and the more we naturally join the Spirit's work of innovation, justice, and vitality in the world.
And when you practice, one of the things that I have learned over and over and over again in my ministry is when you're practicing, you also fail a lot. You fall and you screw up a lot, and that's part of it.
Yes.
And I think I've sensed anyway from what you have said that you're allowing, you have a high tolerance for churches, for parishes to try things.
Exactly. I think that you've named it exactly right. I think in this moment, we are learning as a church, the world was changing before COVID, and it's certainly changing faster now. So we're learning things that we don't already know. And the only way you can learn things, whether you're talking about my 5-year-old son, or you're talking about science and medical research, the only way that you can learn is by trying a lot of different things, most of which will fail. In Silicon Valley, they often talk about failing forward. And what I'm hoping we can develop as part of our culture in the Episcopal Church in Minnesota is to not be afraid to try things and fail and to begin again. Because ultimately, the vitality of the church and the future of the church doesn't depend on our cleverness or our abilities or our gifts. It depends entirely on God's faithfulness. And so the more that we can rely on God's faithfulness, it allows us to be fearless in the face of failure.
And I don't know about the other parishes in ECMN, but with COVID, we've been trying all sorts of things here.
Yeah.
Most of which have not taken off. Most of which have been hard, and they haven't, people haven't wanted to do them. So it's been hard, but we're learning that it's okay to try things, and then if they don't work, we try again. We try something else.
Exactly. So the way I talk about what we're being invited into in this moment, there's 3 things that we should all be doing. We pray. Ultimately, this is God's church, so we let God lead. We pray. We play. So one of the ways when we're trying to learn something new is that, like my son, learns through play.
Yeah.
He tries on different things and he plays different things and he has a kind of creative and fun spirit about it.
Yeah.
And that allows him to learn.
Right.
So we pray, we play, we have a playful spirit. We take the gospel seriously, but we don't take ourselves seriously.
Right.
And we practice. So really those are the 3 things, pray, play, and practice as we're finding our way forward.
Not often in the church are we given permission to play, but I'm telling you, you're between 2 really tacky trees right now.
Well, and this is, we were just, Art and I were talking before we went live that I love this experiment that you're doing so much because, apart from when the bishop's here, what you're inviting people to do is to listen to people that they share this church community with, tell the story of why St. John's is important in their lives.
Yeah.
And to tell about how they found St. John's, what was going on in their life, ways they've encountered the love of God here. This is a really great experiment that you're doing all of that. You're praying, you're playing, and you're practicing through this.
Yeah, thank you.
And I hope you continue something like this. I hope you find this works and you can continue this even when we're able to gather in person again.
It is fun. So thank you for giving us permission and encouragement.
Absolutely.
So, okay, last question I'm going to have is something about you that not many people know that is marvelous.
Is marvelous. Okay. I don't know if I'll tell you 2 things that not a lot of people know.
Bonus.
And I don't know if either one makes me marvelous, but I'll tell you 2 things that are that in different ways are really important to me. First one is that my grandparents immigrated from Mexico. And when my grandfather, as like a 10-year-old boy, immigrated from Mexico, he was separated from his parents. And we don't know anything about his side of the family because of that.
Wow.
And he worked as a migrant farmer until he and his family settled in western Nebraska, which is where he spent the rest of his life.
Wow.
So that experience is really important to me. My father's first language is Spanish, and that's a really important part of my own identity that a lot of people don't know about. So that's I don't know if that's marvelous, but it's important to me.
That's pretty marvelous. And are you fluent in Spanish?
I can do okay. It depends on your definition of fluency, but I do okay.
Wow,
and it's something that I'm always working at, and that is important to me.
Right.
The other thing I would say that is much more lighthearted is that I am a huge baseball fan. So I mean, like I'm not even sure the way to describe it, but it's almost problematic how much I love baseball.
Like a statistic sort of?
Absolutely, 100%. Yeah.
Oh, wow, you're one of those. Yeah.
I am one of those people.
Yeah, wow.
And one of the things, this is actually something that's become more important to me. It's going to sound silly. I play in this really intense fantasy baseball league. And, some of you maybe play fantasy football or fantasy baseball or something. You've got a lot of like standard leagues that you can join on ESPN's website or something like that. The league that I'm part of like has its own rules, so it's not part of any of the standard systems. And it's myself, another Episcopal priest, and a bunch of lawyers and sports writers. And it's really intense, and people take it really seriously, and it's super fun. But one of the things that's taught me, it's kind of related to this, what we're learning in COVID. There's only one member of I've been in this league for probably 7 years now.
Yeah.
There's only one member of the league that I've ever met in person, who's the priest. I've not met any of the other people in person. And I feel so connected to that group of people. We do all of this by email, but we share things that are happening in our lives. Tragically, earlier this year, one of the members of our league died unexpectedly, and there was this outpouring of love and support for that person's family. So one of the things I've learned about, first of all, it's just super fun because I love baseball, and it allows me to spend a lot of time thinking about baseball. But one of the things I love about it is I really do have a community with that group, even though physically in person, I've only ever met one of them.
I mean, what a powerful thing. Community can happen even physically distant.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
That's something we're all having to learn right now.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah.
So, Bishop Loya, for better or for worse, we have a thing called a wonder stick.
I love it. It's so
and
great.
the wonder stick comes in and brings us questions from people in the parish.
Great.
And here comes the wonder stick with, I'm not sure what that claw is.
Yeah, okay. I don't know what that is that's bringing us to.
It looks like a Mickey Mouse sort of thing going on. Okay, let me see. Okay, so we have a book club here in the parish. What are some of your, I'm not going to say some of your favorite books because you could probably go on and on. Two questions. Are you reading something right now? What are you reading?
So right now.
Like fun. It's not like a church book.
Well, I was going to tell you a church book.
No.
I can tell you something fun then.
Yeah.
So I am reading, since the election in January, when I knew I was going to be moving to Minnesota, I started reading William Kent Kruger, who's a St. Paul writer.
Oh, yeah.
William Kent Kruger wrote a series of mystery novels, and the main character is Cork O'Connor, and they take place in the Iron Range in northeastern Minnesota.
Oh, yeah.
So Cork O'Connor is a fictional character who's the sheriff in Tamarack County, Minnesota.
Okay.
So I am on, I believe, the 7th book of that mystery series. So I've read several of them, but I have a dog that needs to be walked all the time, so I listen to them on audiobooks as I'm walking the dog. So that is
great.
If you've not read them, they're great. It's a great series.
Have you been up in the Iron Range now?
Just once. I went up and I did a service in Eveleth, in our congregation in Eveleth. So I kind of did a little tour around the Iron Range there.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
And are you I saw a picture of you, I think, in a canoe.
Yes, so we did canoe this summer, and I don't know this for sure, but I've been told that I believe Santa Claus will be delivering a canoe to the Loya household this Christmas.
Wow.
So I'm looking forward to that.
Every year we do a men's canoe trip up into the Boundary Waters. So anyway.
I'm up for that, yeah.
Yeah, so okay. So this is actually coming from Carrie. Where were you ordained a priest? The church and the town. Okay,
I was ordained as a priest at Trinity Church in Mission, South Dakota.
Oh, yes, I know why she's asking that.
So Mission, South Dakota is a town of about 700 people on the Rosebud Reservation. So I was ordained a priest at Trinity Church in Mission, and I served the first 2 years of my ministry as the primary pastor for 4 small congregations on the Rosebud Reservation in South Dakota. It was an extraordinary experience that I could go on about all night, deeply transformative, And a lot of what I encountered and learned through that experience continues to shape and inform my ministry to this day.
We have a youth group that goes to Rosebud.
Okay, so a lot of your youth group has
summer.
been in mission then, I'm
yes,
sure.
Yes, right. Yeah, we have been in mission.
If your youth group has stayed at the Bishop Hare Center,
that's where we were.
That's
yes.
That's not where I live, but I was, part of my job when I was there was to provide hospitality for youth groups and other kinds of church groups that would come and stay at the Bishop Hare Center.
That's such a wonderful thing, Bishop, because there are larger congregations like ours here in ECMN, but they're also, in kind of city here in the metro. But ECMN also has a whole lot of faithful congregations in very rural areas. And so to have somebody who knows what that's like, to serve and to live and to do the stuff of Jesus in those communities is a beautiful thing.
Yeah, it was one of the things that was a big part of my discernment about being in the bishop search process. I was only willing, my family and I, as we did this discernment, were only willing to go someplace if we knew we could go with our whole heart. And that was true of Minnesota. In the urban places, in towns like White Bear Lake, and in small rural places, it's one of the things that I'm quite deeply moved about and passionate about, which is the just staggering beauty that exists in every corner of Minnesota, and faithful Episcopalians that are doing incredible ministry under challenging circumstances with great faithfulness and resilience. Even 5 months in, the best part of being a bishop is the chance to connect with all of these places and to see all of the wonderful things that are happening.
Yeah, fantastic. It's great. Have you always been part of the Episcopal Church?
I have not. That's a great question. So I grew up with what I would describe as a minimally churched background. So we attended a Lutheran church in North Platte, where I grew up, but not much. So people. Sometimes you say there are people who attend church at Christmas and Easter.
Yeah.
We sort of attended church at Christmas or Easter. Was sort of how my family. So it was pretty minimal in my family.
Right.
When I was in college, I became an Episcopalian. I had a friend who was an Episcopalian. I was really longing to be connected to some kind of a spiritual tradition. And I never really felt like I was a Lutheran because it was not a big part of our experience growing up. So I found the Episcopal Church in college at St. Mark's Pro Cathedral in Hastings, Nebraska, and totally fell in love with it. So that's how I found the Episcopal Church, as I became an Episcopalian in college.
What was it about the Episcopal Church that you loved?
Like a lot of people, I think it was really the blend of ancient worship and open minds and open perspectives.
Yeah.
I think it was both of those things together that the Episcopal Church was a place where I felt like I was grounded in a tradition that is much bigger and older than me, and that was really powerful to be connected to that. And I felt like the Episcopal Church was a place where I could be fully myself. I could bring all of my doubts and all of my questions, and I would find a loving and welcoming and supportive community.
The more I am a Christian and living in the Episcopal branch of the church, the more I appreciate the Episcopal Church. And it's lovely, even when you've been doing it for a while. One still has questions and doubts, and it's a good thing to be in a communion where you're not kicked out if you ask the questions.
Absolutely.
So, it's a beautiful thing. Okay, let's see. We have time for one more question. What has surprised you in your first few months as bishop or living in Minnesota? Okay,
the one about living in Minnesota is easy, and this is going to sound silly. So I love winter, for real. I love winter.
Yeah.
That was part of the.
You got a good coat.
I've got a good coat. We are the Loya household is ready for winter.
Yes.
So that's something I'm actively looking forward to. The thing that surprised me is I did not fully calculate that when you come further north, you lose daylight. I was in a meeting the other day where someone was talking about an event they were trying to plan for December 2nd. And they said on December 2nd, the sun will set in the Twin Cities at 3:53 p.m. so I thought, wow, I did not calculate like the level of darkness that exists in the winter. So that's a small thing that has surprised me about being in Minnesota. I think one of the things that has surprised me about being a bishop is, I genuinely mean this, is just how warm and welcoming people have been. It's actually been a little overwhelming at just how much people in Minnesota value having a bishop and being Episcopalians, and really the way people have extended just unbelievable kindness to me and to my family. And it's not that I didn't expect that necessarily, or expected something different,
right? But
the level of that hospitality has really surprised me in a really wonderful way.
That's great. You know, they do make like headlights, so when you're skiing,
you can, yeah. So, but I'm all in. So the way I like to talk about what I like to do.
Now people will talk though. If you're wearing your headlight, you've got your purple going, and you're on skis,
it'll be weird.
It'll be awesome.
So I'm all in for winter. So one of the if I had to describe what I like to do for fun, the easiest way to say that is anything I can pedal, paddle, or climb. I'm all in. So I can't wait to do like cross-country skiing and snowshoeing and ice fishing, and I'm in for all of it this winter. I can't wait.
Minnesota's the place to be.
Yeah.
It is. It's got everything. It's got all that stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, thank you so much, Bishop. We are so honored and one more question, I think. Do we have time? Oh, this one's going directly.
This one's going to me. Okay.
Watch out for
that. If it was important enough to. Oh, okay. There we go. Okay, so this question actually is for you, Art.
I didn't.
We could have flipped this and done. Okay. That would have been a lot more interesting for folks. So, Art, what is your favorite thing about being the rector of St. John's?
Oh, that's easy. The people here, how you were received as a bishop is how we were received here at St. John's.
Yeah.
And the warm welcome that we've received here, and just forging these super deep, beautiful relationships with folks. That's just easy peasy one to answer. It's the people, always the people.
Yeah.
And we struggle and we triumph together, but it feels like family. And I refer to this parish as a family. We are a parish family, and so always the people.
Yeah. Well, you couldn't have said it better, I think, and I can't wait to meet all of the people here who are so wonderful and make being the rector here such a great thing. I do want to say to everybody at St. John's, you know this, but I want you to know that I know this, even as a new bishop, that you've got a really extraordinary rector, and he is an incredible colleague in the diocese. He is deeply respected by his colleagues, other priests, and he's contributed a lot of things to our common life. So I could not be more grateful that he's here. And just so you know, if a priest wants to move to another diocese, they have to have their bishop's permission to do that. So I think I will just simply not give permission for Art to go to another diocese if he should ever decide to do that.
Bishop Craig, that is so nice of you to say. And and I'm not even nervous around you now. You're like, thank you.
Yeah.
I really.
Well, this has been a gift to me. There's nothing that's more important than local congregations. That's where ministry happens. That's where people meet Jesus. That's where people share their lives together. That's where people witness to the way of love in their neighborhoods. So what goes on, I was just remarking about what a wonderful, beautiful space you have. And what goes on in this space, I could not overstate how important what happens here is. And the only reason a bishop exists is to support and nourish and do whatever I can in whatever small way I can to encourage and support what all of you are doing here at St. John's. So I'm grateful to your rector. I'm also grateful to all of you who are watching for your faithfulness in all times, but particularly in this time, and for all of the extraordinary ways that you walk the way of Jesus together in this place. I can't possibly thank you enough.
Thank you. And you're going to be hard to beat. But, so next Wednesday, we're taking a break because it's the Wednesday before Thanksgiving, and instead we're going to do a Thanksgiving service. We can't have our Thanksgiving meal together, as everybody knows, but we are doing a special service next Wednesday, so tune in for that. And then the Wednesday after that, if there's anybody that can top you, it's the Yankee family. So it's Megan and Ross Yankee and their three boys. They're going to be here. I can't remember what that is. Whatever Wednesday that is in December, that first Wednesday in December. So
I'll probably tune in and watch now that I know that you're inviting all the great people from St. John's to be here. I want to get to know them, so I'll look forward to getting to the Yankee family next week.
I'll let Megan and Ross and that family know, and they'll be nervous because the bishop is watching them. So, but thank you so much, Bishop, and really appreciate it. I know this is kind of weird with trees and funky things. And
this was easily the most fun I've had all week. So
awesome.
Thanks for this. This was super great.
Well, thanks very much. And thanks to all of you who joined us tonight and took part of your evening. And I encourage you right now, actually, in about 3 minutes, we have our weekly Bible study that begins at 6:45 and runs to 7:45. So I encourage you to check the website, click on that link for the Bible study, and keep learning how to be a disciple of Jesus. And even now, we can start practicing discipleship. So thanks a lot for joining us. Have a great evening. God bless.
Bye, everyone.